Hey guys, welcome back to Shifting Gears. This is actually episode 1 of this new show that we're testing out here. So if Shifting Gears is taken,
Sorry.
sorry. All right. First story of the day, guys. We'll get right into it. Target is investing $100 million into next day delivery service. They're basically doing this to try to compete with Walmart and Amazon. And in that competition, good luck. You are basically as big as Target is, you're still David to their Goliath. Also, I don't really like the numbers back it up. Okay, there has been a 150% increase in next day deliveries since they opened up their first sortation center back in 2020. Um, and they still expect to handle like over 50 million next day packages, which is double what they did
Jeez.
last year. But I just want to go to a Target.
Well, they're
Like,
upgrading Targets. So a lot of Targets right now are under construction because they're building out the bags, right, to
oh yeah, no,
make
they said
more
something about that because it's
sortation centers.
basically, yeah, and what part of the problem was is that they were handling so many delivery orders during the pandemic is that they had these back rooms where they were, trying to fulfill all these delivery orders and they just essentially couldn't do it because there were so many orders during the pandemic and stuff.
Do you think a pandemic goal is smart to take forward? Not in a pandemic?
Hmm. I mean, there are some things that have sort of changed, like I would say just about forever. I mean, deliveries might be one of them in terms
Sure.
of like I don't remember grocery deliveries like really being a thing until
No, but laziness
recently.
always has been, and now we've got a reason.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I think we found the loophole with that one.
That's true. I'll stick with my perusing around Target trips and ending it with Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you got?
Well, the Boeing 787 delays are still here. They have been delaying shipments since 2020, and right now they're in the middle of yet another shipment delay. It's
Good.
been, yeah, this one's been only a month, just over a month actually, by the time this airs. And that's nothing compared to the last one, which lasted over a year. So, right now they're attributing that to an analysis error concerning the pressure bulkhead. So that is a portion of the plane for those of you that don't know. So
You know a lot about planes, don't you?
I don't know a lot
That's
about
crazy.
planes, but the
That's
internet
crazy.
tells me a lot. So what we're seeing here is that the pressure in the cabins is what's really being impacted by this. So
Sounds scary.
the saying used to be, if it's going, it's Boeing. And
Sounds like it's going to make your ears pop.
yeah, well, somebody in the comment section of the article that I found this in said, if it's not going, it's Boeing. Right.
This actually isn't Boeing's first time being in controversy, though. I mean, back in 2018, 2019, these controversies were a lot worse. So the 737 MAX, as some of you may remember, was a plane that should never exist ever again, probably. Um, it was involved in 2 separate crashes back in 2018, 2019. Yeah, like over 340 something people killed. And what was it was grounded between March 2019 and then December 2020. So they're still out there, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, sure, not the same planes, I guess. But do I feel any better with this new story of another plane getting delayed and sort of getting the vibe that Boeing forgot how to make planes?
Well, their problem is not as severe or significant as it was. At least it hasn't crashed because it hasn't gone anywhere.
In the air, yeah, it should probably stay there. And speaking of things that should stay on the ground, taxis. Um, South Korea has a different idea for what taxis should be, though, because they're working on launching a flying taxi service as soon as 2025, which seems a little
Sounds like a bad idea.
generous.
Just a really bad idea.
Well, here's what's funny about these things. They're referring to them as electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. So it's a small helicopter with wheels. It's like when you're trying to make your essay reach the word count,
Mm-hmm.
That's basically all it is.
Somebody used a thesaurus for
and
that one.
And this is also a great quote right here. The company hopes that service quality and safety will be suitable for public launch in 2025.
I wonder what other aircraft service they may have consulted to just have hope.
Uh, I don't.
So I
Probably
have
Boeing.
a question about this. How do you control what's in the air, right? When you're in a plane, somebody on the ground knows, people
Like air
on the
traffic
ground know,
control.
yes, where you are, like where you started, where you're landing, and where you are in between those spaces. On the ground, there are boundaries for how streetways are supposed to be
we have roads.
utilized, right? So
Stop
how
signs
do
in the
you
air.
fix the stop signs, and what happens if something crashes? Like what?
I don't know. See, that was always my thing with flying cars and flying whatever. Is just how do you legislate that? Like, I
How
don't
do
know.
you find who's at fault?
I don't know. See,
What happens?
I'm a big Star Wars nerd. Okay, all right. So
Sure.
shut up. So and so on Coruscant, that's a planet in Star Wars. They have all these flying cars that are basically just going, at each other all the time. And I watched that, and I'm like, okay, I would say in America that lasts for 5 seconds.
Road rage, I think,
Maybe
would be
5
very
seconds.
deadly by that point.
Ooh, that would
I
be
feel like
road
there
rage?
should be some sort of like
The air
psychological
rage.
evaluation before maybe people are able to do that.
Yeah.
Also,
Air rage,
have
no.
they? Yeah, obviously there's a new type of license for that, so I hope that they're building out that program too, right?
Well, they may not.
Would it be a pilot's license?
Well, okay. So here's the deal. Actually, they think that
That industry is going to explode if that happens.
Well, they think, but they're going to start running autonomously, though. Is the thing. So they'll probably start with pilots, which makes me feel 1% better. And then they're going to eventually run off of, look at this, a next gen 5G network. So they're just going to connect to Verizon. I don't know.
I like the newfound ways to pass people. I feel like there's something really aggressive if you're flying in your car, your plane, your personal aircraft goes dee-dee-dee and then flies over someone.
That's
I really
true.
like the option of over under versus just around the side.
A police chase in the sky is like a good plot for a movie already.
I'm sure it already exists. It just makes me think of the Jetsons.
Big fans of Back to the Future too. I mean, they think there might be as many as 160,000 unpiloted drones by 2050, which seems like 160,000 too many.
2050. Hopefully, I'm not old enough that I have to drive myself or I'm too old to drive myself by that point. I probably won't be, but I definitely am going to be a lot more afraid of the roads by that age.
I'm good. I don't want my grandma on one of those.
Well, speaking of things that are in the sky versus what should be on the ground, UPS employees are in trouble.
I don't know if that worked the way you thought it would.
It did not. Super didn't.
That's all right.
But so there's the cocaine being trafficked by 2 UPS employees and 3 of their friends. There were a total of 5 people involved. So the cocaine totaled out to about 60 kilos, which a kilo is roughly the size of a ferret. So
we had a whole discussion on this. I didn't know what a kilo was. I thought it was like big. I thought it was like the size of a car. She's like, no, it's like a ferret.
Or a fennec fox, for those of you that like the cuter.
Fennec fox. I like alliteration, so I'll go with that.
Cool. So that's what really matters here is
60 fennec foxes.
Yeah, worth of cocaine. And I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying that word as many times as I have at this point, but here we are.
That's a fact,
So the progression of how this happened is one guy had the obviously the product. Then the employees obviously said, this is what's easiest for me to gain access to. We're going to ship in our own packaging. So I'm sure UPS is getting involved. That we may see a lawsuit for my understanding of this.
Fun.
Somebody else provided the fake labels for the packaging. And then the 5th and final friend said, you can store it at my place. So
that's generous.
It is. And nice. So is their consequences.
Yeah.
So they are all facing life in prison at this point and fines as high as about $10 million. So
that's wild. That's wild. Maybe I'm just ignorant on drug laws, but that feels like a lot.
Yeah, but I guess because of how it unfolded and the company that was associated, the fines are pretty substantial.
Yeah, I would say messing with the mail
is already a federal offense.
Probably frowned upon, actually, now I'm thinking about it. You know what? That's probably right. That's probably right. We probably don't need none around.
No.
Mm-mm.
No foxes were harmed in the making of this
As far as we
episode.
know. As far as we know.
It's horrible.
That's true. Unfortunately, there were some animals harmed in Ohio with the train derailment.
Yeah.
It's been a story that's been going for, let's see, what day is today? Oh, it's been a month. It's been exactly a month as of recording. And so this has obviously spurred a lot of attention towards trains that didn't exist until early February. Even though there are 1,000 train derailments a year, do you know that? Like roughly around that many a year.
Why are we not talking about this more often? That's
Well, we
a
are.
big number.
But usually they don't. Not all of those result in Chernobyl. So
As if a train
a little
falls over
dramatic. A little
in
dramatic.
deserted place, nobody really cares.
That's,
Except for the people whose commodities were on the train.
well, clearly though, the Federal Railroad Administration is just tired of dealing with train derailments this month. So they're working on some new safety programs for the railroads. Some of them are focused on inspections that are focused on the routes that carry hazardous or flammable materials. That seems like something that should have already been there. Maybe focus on that stuff a little bit. Hindsight's 2020, I suppose. But the inspections are going to start in East Palestine, Ohio, as they probably should, and then they'll expand nationwide eventually. So they're starting in the homeland of America and making their way out. A similar testing method that they kind of trotted out last year identified over, and this is going to scare people, 10,000 track safety defects last year.
What?
Which probably contributes to the 1,000 train derailments. I'm going to make sure that you don't forget that actually happens.
Guys, what are we doing?
Not staying on the track, obviously.
I think before we put cars in the air, we should figure out why trains are flying off the tracks.
Yeah, we can't even keep
here
them on the
on the
ground.
ground.
And I would imagine that we'll probably expect them to find more than 10,000 this year, considering all the extra scrutiny and probably just the benefit of hindsight, knowing what they're looking for. Let's see here. The U.S. Department of Transportation, they're still pursuing several other safety-related actions that have really been in the works for years, like well before the Ohio situation. One of them would be advancing a rule that requires two-person train crews, which, again, why is that not already a thing? These trains are like miles long, and you want to put a person on it.
I don't like how much faith and trust we have in technology to just let these things be going rogue regularly.
We're giving too much trust to trains here. Let's see here. Let's see. Anything with hazmat, they're going to be obviously targeting that and making sure that it's reviewed well. President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law that was signed, roughly half a year ago or so, or at least really started making its effects roughly half a year ago or so. And they're going to be basically utilizing that to upgrade and modernize rail infrastructure, make safety improvements over the long term, stuff like that. They're basically just crossing all their T's, dotting all their I's, being like, all right, well, obviously people are paying attention to trains now, so we should probably tell them.
Well, if enough fly off the track and you have to evacuate an entire city, I think people's eyes are open to the situation. So I'm glad we're at least addressing this. It's unfortunate that the statistics are as high as they are at this point, but
go trains.
Onward and upward. Well, we're ending on a more somber note. AM radios could be
more somber than that.
Well, for people like myself that grew up listening to the radio and cassette tapes and CDs, hearing that another form of another format actually would be disappearing. So part of the problem is electric vehicles circling back around. Some may say it's not a problem, and good. AM radio needs to scoot on out of here. But they create this signal that interferes with the radio, so it creates like static in the background and sometimes like a humming noise, if we'd like to be specific.
Basically sounds bad.
Here. Yeah,
you just can't listen to AM radio. Yeah.
Only 20%, which actually is larger than I thought it would be, of the U.S. public still listens to AM radio. But a third of those people are 65 or older.
And that's lower than I thought it would be.
Well, yeah.
Honestly.
People have sentiment and nostalgia, so We may see AM radios just disappearing entirely, but some are arguing that AM makes it more difficult for. Oh, that's yes. Sorry.
No, you had that
Arguing
right.
that taking away AM radio would make it more difficult for emergency broadcasts to reach the public. So, I mean, if it's an emergency broadcast, depending on what that thing is, and part of the elderly population, which 65 is not that elderly in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If that's their primary form of receiving news or updates, especially if they're on the go, then we are eliminating the opportunity for them to know what's going on. And in a state of emergency, I feel like we should be able to keep that open for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this is also just a matter of technology just evolving, right? I mean, the radio, AM, FM, it's not like it was endangered last night. Like,
are you pro AM or not?
Okay, well, I have weird feelings towards it because, growing up, I wanted to be in journalism. I worked for a couple of sports radio stations around here that they were actually on FM, but I think the point still stands. I have a soft spot for it, but I'm not going to I haven't listened to the radio in years. It's all like podcasts on my phone or stuff like that. I mean, for people in our generation, that's just sort of what it is now. And so I don't know how to feel about it because I just feel like if AM radios are taken away, they'll just figure out another way to contact us. I mean, even people 65 and older, they have phones.
Yeah, but my dad doesn't use his phone for that. He uses his phone just to check the weather and to call my mom. Yeah. That's about it.
Well, if it's a weather emergency, you should be fine then.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
he likes to listen to NASCAR through AM radio, though.
Yeah, there it is. No, they'll get the emergency broadcast through their antennas and their TVs. So I'm sure that they'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of FM, I mean, the other pro for AM is that it does have a further reach than FM. So it can reach out to spaces that FM maybe can't get to, which is probably also where some of that demographic comes into play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get it. It definitely is better. I feel like they'll figure it out. I feel like the technology has been leading in this direction for so long that it shouldn't be a surprise for anybody that radios are getting phased out.
I bet the flying taxis don't even have radio.
Oh my goodness! I hope it's not. I hope I get to pick the song at least. I hope it's not like an Uber who just puts on whatever he wants and it's just awful. Well, I think that's just about all we got to cover today. Thank you for switching gears with us.
Shifting gears. We'll get there.
Stick
around as we figure it out.
Thanks for watching us shift and change our names. Switch.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.